Roger Federer's inspiring victory at the 2018 Australian Open has raised the eternal question once again: just who is the greatest tennis player of all time? Well, Roger Federer fans are arguing that the victory at the Australian Open basically closes this debate, that it cements Roger's indisputable status as the greatest tennis player of all time. Well, I don't quite agree with the idea that the debate has been closed. I don't think it's closed. I think it's still a live debate, because I think that there is one, possibly two positions other than the position that Roger is the greatest that are reasonable and can be debated. But I do believe that Roger has the strongest claim to this distinction. I posted a video a couple of weeks back on the eve of the Australian Open articulating 3 reasons why I believe he is the greatest tennis player of all time. But I've rethought those reasons, and I'm sort of refining them in my mind, and I've added a couple, having watched him at the Australian Open. So what I'd like to do for you today is lay out 5 reasons why Roger Federer is the greatest tennis player of all time. My name is Aaron Knapp. Welcome to Tennis Talk Daily, where you will get essential tennis commentary delivered in video form on a daily basis. Subscribe to the channel to receive these videos, and give the video a thumbs up if you like what you see and hear. So I had 3 before, and I'm going to retain those 3 that I had articulated before, although I'll add a couple of things to them. But I've got 2 more that I wanted to add, again, based on my experience of watching Roger during the Australian Open and the sort of thoughts that I've had. So, the 5 reasons why Roger Federer is the greatest tennis player of all time. Number 1, the numbers. Roger has won more Grand Slam titles than any other player in the history of the game. The most important tournament within those Grand Slams, Wimbledon, the one that all the players look on with, with the deepest respect, and the one that really they all want to win most, well, Roger has won Wimbledon more than any player in the history of the game. Nadal's won 16 Grand Slams. Djokovic has won 12. It does not look like they're going to catch Roger Federer in this regard, and it's possible Nadal will tally up another French Open or 2, but I don't think he's going to be able to catch Federer, because Federer is going to have more Grand Slams by the time he retires. Roger Federer has won 96 titles over the course of his career. He's actually second in this category to Jimmy Connors, who won 109. But all Federer needs is about 2 or 3 more good years, and he will surpass Connors. But more importantly, for our purposes, Nadal only has 75 titles to his name. That's 21 less than Roger Federer. Djokovic has 68 titles to his name. Finally, Roger has been at the number 1 spot, has been world number 1 longer than any other player in history. He's not number 1 right now, but he has been for the longest time of any player in history, with 302 weeks. He also holds the record for the number of consecutive weeks in which he's held the number 1 title, which is 237. Compare that to Nadal, who's only held the number 1 spot for 165 weeks, only 56 of which have been consecutive. And to Djokovic, who's held it for 223 weeks, only 122 of which have been consecutive. So Roger has a very comfortable lead in that regard as well. There's so many other records that Federer holds. He's been to the most finals of any player in history of the Grand Slams. He's been to the most semifinals in Grand Slams of any other player in history. He holds the record for the number of years in which he's been to the finals of all 4 Grand Slams. He's done that 3 times. He holds the record for the number of years in which he's won 3 of the 4 Grand Slams. He's done that 3 times. He holds the record for the number of years in which he's won 2 of the 4 Grand Slams. He's done that 6 times. He holds so many records, all the important ones. It's a very important reason why he is the greatest tennis player of all time. Reason number 2, Federer's range of play. he has this immense diversity of shots in his toolkit, and the range of his play is just astonishing. All of the different variations on the backhand and the forehand, the squash shots, the net play in which he really does outdo Nadal in pretty much every respect, the variety of overhead shots he makes, the half volleys. He really does have an immense diversity of shots at his disposal, and it's one of the reasons he's the greatest. The number 3 reason, Federer's adaptability. He adapts to the conditions and the circumstances in each match. And fans kind of get upset about this sometimes. They want to see him make particular shots. But Roger is always playing the player on the other side of the court. He doesn't come into matches with fixed strategies. He comes into matches with a rough sketch of his history with the particular player, but he uses his instincts and he adapts his play to beat the particular player on the other side of the court, and he doesn't make shots that are unnecessary to doing so. Also, I mean, he's adaptable in the sense of his equipment. He famously changed his racket, essentially, in 2014 after almost 20 years of playing on the circuit with one kind of racket. He enlarged his racket head to 97 square inches. It presented problems because there are serious control issues that he'd never had to deal with. Now, it also presented the opportunity for more power. It certainly helped his backhand, but he had to change. He had to learn how to play with this new racket. So there's another example of Federer's adaptability. And Pete Sampras, when he heard about this racket change, he was astonished. He couldn't believe Federer could do that. He couldn't imagine himself doing that when he was playing tennis. Maybe the opportunity arose, but he couldn't do it. He just was too scared to do it. He was not adaptable enough. The number 4 reason why Roger Federer is the greatest tennis player of all time, his artistry. He is a beautiful player to watch. I see these pictures of him doing the volleys at the nets and reaching for shots, and he looks like a figure out of a Michelangelo painting. He is simply beautiful to watch. The artistry in his tennis is one of the reasons why he is the greatest tennis player of all time, and there's really only one other player in history that comes close to Federer in terms of the artistry, and that's John McEnroe. But John McEnroe had other problems that Roger doesn't have. But Roger tops even McEnroe in terms of the artistry. And finally, the longevity. Roger, now at 36 years old, against all odds, has picked up his 20th Grand Slam trophy. He won the Australian Open last year at 35 years old. He won Wimbledon last year at 36 years old. There's only one other player in the history of tennis who's won a Grand Slam at an older age, and that's Ken Rosewall, who won the Australian Open, I believe, in '72 when he was 37. Roger will have to win the Australian Open of 2019 in order to surpass Rosewall, the U.S. Open of 2000. Excuse me. Yeah, the U.S. Open of 2018 will not suffice to do it, and Roger will have to go on to the Australian Open of 2019 to break through Rosewall's record. But he's got that asset as well. He has had incredible longevity. Maybe by itself it doesn't establish him as the greatest player of all time, but together with these other 4 reasons, it does establish that he is the greatest tennis player of all time. Now, what are the rebuttals? I'd like to discuss at least one rebuttal. One rebuttal for the Nadal fans is that Nadal has a winning record against Roger Federer, and that's true. Nadal has the winning record. The head-to-head is 23-15 in favor of Nadal. He's won 8 more matches against Federer. So, what's the rebuttal to the rebuttal? Well, you can talk about the surfaces first. Clearly, Nadal has had a very comfortable winning record against Federer on clay, but on hard court, actually, Federer has the winning record, and on grass, Federer also has the winning record. So that's one response. But the other response is, all those other numbers. If we want to get into numbers and head-to-heads, well, all those other numbers that I had talked about in the first reason basically serve as a rebuttal to the rebuttal. So that's the case that I can make at this point. Let me know your thoughts. I mean, in particular, I'm interested in what you think about this, the question of whether artistry should be a factor, whether sort of tennis artistry should be a factor in making this determination. So let me know. Subscribe to the channel. Give me your comments. I really want to read them. Let me know if I've missed anything. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. Subscribe again. Give the video a thumbs up. I look forward to talking with you soon. I got tons of stuff in the hopper, and it's going to be coming down the pike. We got some great videos coming up. Subscribe. Talk to you soon. Bye.